Hello friends and greetings for the day. Welcome back to another episode of Testing in Nutshell. This is Neeraj Kumar Singh, and today in this particular tutorial we are continuing our journey ahead with Agile methodology. In the previous two tutorials we have understood about what is the basic fundamental understanding on the Agile, and the second one is understanding the Agile Manifesto. So yes, Agile Manifesto is a set of 4 core values which basically makes up the Agile methodology. But these 4 core values are divided further into detail, and we call them as 12 principles. So Agile consists of 12 standard principles which generally help you understand Agile in a much better way and help you implement that in a very convenient manner in the organizations. So in this particular tutorial, we'll be trying to understand each of these principles in more detail, and let's get started without wasting much of our time. In our previous tutorials, we have understood about Agile Manifesto, where we understood the core values of Agile methodology by following the 4 fundamental manifesto. In this tutorial, we'll be going beyond that in order to understand the Agile principles. We have 12 principles to understand, where we will be getting started with each one of them and understanding each principle in more detail to understand that how these principles can help you implement Agile in the best way. Principle number 1. Our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. So the most important thing, as we have been learning with Agile methodology so far, is to satisfy the customer. No matter what you are doing, probably you are creating a lot of designs, doing an efficient work to create that product and let that do the expected outcomes. But if you are not delivering the same, and if your customer is unaware that what exactly you have been doing for a long time, that may put off your customer away from you. So thus, satisfying the customer is the highest priority when working with Agile methodology, and that can be achieved by thorough, early and continuous delivery of the software. Principle number 2. Welcome changing requirements even late in development. Agile processes harness change for the customer's competitive advantage. I think when you talk about the customer, it's more of like meeting the expectation, whatever you are creating. So when you're creating a product, it's more important to meet the expectations of the customer. At the end of the day, if the product is unuseful to the customer, there is no point putting your effort and hard work into that. So thus, when a customer has some changes involved, because we do agree at certain point of time that nothing can be planned end to end at a very early phase. So maybe probably in the beginning, the customer may give you certain set of requirements to kickstart the project with, and later provide you necessary details in further optimizing the product. Thus, we do welcome changing requirements even late in development, as we can always entertain them while working with the Agile methodology. Principle number 3. Delivering working software frequently, from couple of weeks to the couple of months, with a preference to shorter time scale. Now, when you talk about Agile, depending on different frameworks, Agile have different durations for each sprint. It could be even for a couple of weeks or sometime a couple of months, which generally means that we try to be as shorter as possible to meet the expectations and deliver something from time to time, but the more important thing is delivering a working software frequently as early as possible. So depending on your framework which you are going to use, we will be following the duration to deliver the same. Principle number 4. Business people and developers must work together daily throughout the project. That's the most creative thing which has come up in Agile compared to traditional approaches, that the business people who collect the requirements from the customer or involved customer representatives must work very closely with the developers to make them understand that what exactly is the expectations of the product, which in traditional approaches had created the gap, and we had a number of questions, or probably in fact having the misunderstanding of the requirement which we actually wanted to create. Thus, business people and developers, when working together, can eliminate a lot of such misunderstanding issues, and in fact in return they can reduce a lot of defects at an early stage. in turn increasing the productivity time. Principle number 5. Build projects around motivated individuals, give them the environment and support they need, and trust them to get the job done. Now, when we talk about the Agile methodology, it comprises of self-motivated team members, where you generally do not have a leader to guide you now and then or instruct you with the activities or tasks which you should perform as a part of daily activity schedule. Thus, Agile does not have a leader or a boss of the development team. And here, in fact, the roles and responsibilities are not specific to each one, rather, all the members are called together as a development team. But yes, you might have heard of something called a Scrum Master who generally helps the team to guide them in order to overcome certain challenges and take regular updates from them. But yes, at the same time, we give that trust on them that they will be able to do it. In return, we generally start creating right from the beginning a motivated individuals team to do that job done and believe on them. Principle number 6. The most efficient and effective method of conveying information to and within a development team is face-to-face conversation. From traditional approaches, we have understood that the electronic mails or reporting was creating a lag between the communications of the different stakeholders. Thus, in Agile, we have overcome that barrier where that is possible that a person may not read your mail from time to time, or probably may read your mail or understand the issue probably next day, and it generally creates a lag in the schedule. Now, covering that, we have achieved efficiency and effectiveness by overcoming that barrier in Agile methodology by following this principle that the team will be co-located at single premises at the same place by having or encouraging the face-to-face conversation, which eliminates the gap of the misunderstanding and written communications. Principle number 7. Working software is the primary measure of progress. When a particular requirement is given to you, the only thing which can help a customer to understand that how well or how far you have reached with the progress is by understanding the product. And for that, the customer had to have a look on the product, that how much you have actually created the product in order to measure the progress. Thus, in Agile, we don't waste a lot of time creating heavy documentations and following a process. So you may have to recall the learnings from the manifesto that we give importance to working software over process and plans. Thus, the primary measure of progress in Agile is delivering of the working software. So whatever you have created will help you define that how much you have finally done. Principle number 8. Agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and users should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. Now, of course, when it comes to creating some of the products using the traditional approaches, maybe for a cycle 1 you would have created a lot of features, but cycle 2 you were spending a lot of time fixing the defects of the cycle 1. Thus, you do not have a good pace to maintain that constant consistency of delivering the product with the same pacing. Thus, in Agile, we talk about the more importantly that when sponsors, developers, and users working together, they should maintain the constant pace throughout the life cycle of the product and constantly deliver the same piece of code or proportional piece of code or working software at the same time or this different interval of sprints. So that's where this principle helps us to understand that it is really important to give the similar proportion of material or working software to the customer from the time to time when working with the life cycle of the product. Principle number 9. Continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances agility. Of course, to be agile, you need to have good understanding of the technology which you're working on, and having a good architecture can solve a lot of your problem. So instead of wasting your lot of time just defining the schedule, roles and responsibility, determining what tools, what techniques to use, rather you can define a good design which will help you to determine what could be done first and what would be done later, and what kind of information would be required from time to time in order to implement a product. And obviously having that knowledge to do that job is pretty important. So technical excellence from time to time will help you implement those tasks quicker and more efficiently. Principle number 10. When you talk about simplicity, the art of maximizing the amount of work not done is essential. I think this creates a contradiction impression when you read it for the first time, that art of maximizing the amount of work not done. You are actually creating or increasing the work which is not supposed to be done, and that is called as essential, or probably the simplicity of Agile, which in turn means that when you talk about the work not done being maximized, it simply means that please eliminate those unwanted activities, unwanted tasks which is not supposed to be done at that point of time. So it's really important to simplify your work by only targeting on the areas which need to be done to meet the expectations or acceptance criteria of that product to be met. In order to do that, you have to push all those unwanted things away from your sprints and cycles to concentrate only on the activity which will finally satisfy the needs of the customer. Thus, simplicity is done by the art of maximizing the amount of work not done or not supposed to be done as a part of the life cycle. Principle number 11. The best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing team. This is another principle which talks about how the organization, or generally we are referring to the development team, which works together to determine what will be done, how we will be doing that, what kind of artifacts we will be referring to minimize our effort and increase the efficiency or productivity. And that's where we say that the self-organizing teams are very well organized in order to have the best architectures, requirements, and design. But unlike traditional approaches, here in Agile, we work closer to each other, where architects, requirements, and designs, everything are closer to the developers and the testers. But in traditional approaches, there were different teams, and thus communication was a challenge, and having that understanding, probably the knowledge transfer, was another roadblock for us. But that has been removed when we talk about Agile by following this particular principle. Last but not the least, when you talk about principle 12, it says that at regular interval the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes it and adjusts its behavior accordingly. Again, if you talk about the traditional approaches, we used to have certain test closure activities or post-mortem activities at the end of the project in order to understand that how well we have done the project, what were the common challenges and common issues we have faced, why did we have a delayed response on certain activities. When you talk about having those documents being available for review, or having certain test bases for deriving the test cases late in the life cycle, or probably the test tools not being available on time, test environment not ready on time. So these kind of challenges have delayed our activities while being in the life cycle of the product. But in Agile, we don't do that at the end of the project. Rather, every particular sprint, we have a retrospective as one of the ceremonies to be conducted in order to identify that what we have done in this particular sprint, what we could have done better, what could have common mistakes we have done, so that we can update it or tune it, like fine-tune the process right from the second sprint, and we don't wait for the entire project to get over to cry on our mistakes. So here it happens quite frequently, and adjust the same thing right from the upcoming sprints. And that's how you work quickly when you talk about Agile methodology. So in this tutorial, we have understood the 12 standard Agile principles, which talks from all the prospects of Agile methodology, as well as fulfilling the needs of the Agile manifesto when working with Agile process. We will look into more details of these principles by following different aspects and terminologies in upcoming tutorials. So that's all from this particular tutorial, team. Should you have anything else, feel free to comment below. I'll be always there to respond to your queries and answer them well. Till then, keep learning, keep exploring, keep understanding the context. Thanks for watching the video, team, and happy learning.